So after about 7 to 8 months of playing Zenless Zone Zero, I think I'm finally in a position that I can give this game a fair review. Now the review is going to be based on numerous things, but more importantly, I'm going to have to take you back to something that I did recently. So during 1.4, I made a decision to restart the game on a free-to-play account, just to see how the changes from 1.0 to 1.4 were, and if then for newer players, how the game was and how it seemed to play. During my time of gaming, and that has been for the last 30 odd years, you play lots of different types of games, regardless if it's a gacha game like this, and depending on the combat's like, if it's first person, third person, things like that. But I think everyone agrees that when you play a game, if that part at the start doesn't grip you, there's a very good chance, human nature wise, you're just going to kind of say, yeah, you know what, I'm not really bothered. And even worse, when you get older. When I was a kid, I would play games that now I'd look at and think, why did I even bother playing that game? Because you kind of stick to things a little bit more because it's really, really enjoyable as a kid. You don't think about other things. You've even got lots of other things going on in your life. It's different, isn't it? Much different. But as you get older, I find it more difficult. And this is not just in games. This is in TV. This is in training. This is in anything I look at in life. I find things there's a lot more of a struggle to want to continue doing something if that instant or initial part doesn't grip me like it should. And this is the same with this. So when I first played the game 1.0, I played it, I was enjoying it, wasn't the biggest hyped fan of it when it first came out. It had everything I enjoyed. I loved the combat, I loved the characters, the different types of art style,
I shall follow your orders.
the voice acting, the story, the sound, anything that you could type of think of. There was nothing personally I would say that put me off, but there was errors in the way the story and the game itself developed. What I'll aim it at, which most people have said, is the TV system that they had in this game at the start was pretty poor. It gave a very slow pacing to the game, and then when you got through it all, there wasn't really that big hit or that oomph at the end to kind of say, well, it was worth it. After a space of 4 to 5 weeks, I kind of just dropped the game, didn't really play it for a while, and then started to slowly come back over a few patches until 1.2 came out. But anyway, I digress. 1.4, I started a free-to-play account. I wanted the unit Miyabi. I decided that Miyabi wasn't something I wanted on my main, mainly because I knew for a fact Miyabi was going to be pretty broken. And after I'd watched quite a lot of videos, and this is not, this is going to start sounding negative already. It's not how it's supposed to be. It is that she is a great entry-level unit, I think is a good example. And 1.4 was kind of like a soft reset for the game for newer players or anyone to come back who hadn't played for a while, pick up Miyabi, and she's basically going to guide you through, well, all of the game, pretty much. She can solo things that other people can't, other characters can't, so yeah, that happened. But yeah, so 1.4, I went through the story again, and you know what, I had a really great time. It was, I forgot how funny and how how much comedy value there is in Zenless Zone Zero, and it's very clever because they suck you into this kind of like very quick, and because the cutscenes are the fast pacing at the start was great. 1.0's problem was that you then got shut down by this TV system that slowed down your pace, and it didn't need to. So their introduction of their change was the bangaboos. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, you can see them there, the little bangaboos. You as the main character in the game, who isn't actually playable as a character in combat, was then used, or is in one of the bangaboos that then you can move around, very similar to like Mario platformer, but very basic. I'm just using Mario as example platformer. I'm not saying it's on Mario's level, of course, but they decided to actually go back and change everything and actually implement this new system, which I thought was, they could have just gone, well, we'll just do it from 1.4, and you're still going to have to play through all that and do that again. They didn't, and it was really good. The game was so much better playing it from 1.4. The only thing you missed out on was, a selection of characters. But I generally think 1.4 was the best time to play the game and pick the game back up. I enjoyed it. I got all the way through to pretty much 1.2, 1.3. It's having time to play it all and doing things. There's a lot that opens up. I managed to get my Abby. I managed to get her engine. I managed to get her a basic set of gear that was on set, and then just be able to walk through the content. Now, people that might think, well, that sounds boring. Not so boring when you've already gone through it once and you don't really want to do that again. It was a different way of playing. I wanted the idea of that account, which I'll explain, is to pick up the characters that I feel are the more meta-based, because it isn't how I normally play. And that's what the account's for. I just want to pick up those odd characters and just play the content and move forward. This account really was to pick up the characters that I really, really want to play and enjoy. Evelyn's my newest unit. I'll do a quick show before I go any further, because I did do a review. She's okay. She's got decent crit rate, decent attack. Needs some more crit damage. Max skills, I went for the 4-piece attack set. I think the Hormone Punk was the better for me, just because I had a couple of pieces that were okay, and then I just went 2-piece fire damage. But anyway, this is not a review video for the character. This is about the game. But in general, Evelyn, fantastic. Really enjoyed her. And this is where I realised, going back to Miyabi, is ridiculously broken, and how much he makes an entry level game for new players. I think it's very important. And when I say new players, I don't just mean new players in gacha games, I mean new players in third person action combat. Some people might not be the best. You don't need to be the best to play Miyabi, because for most of the time you can barely get hit when you're Miyabi. She has very easy skill sets to learn, has most of broken attacks. So if you're not very good at the game, they've given you a character that you can use. And I know people are going to say power creep. Well, that's up to you. You want to call it power creep, you can. I think most characters in the game can pass most of the combat and the content, so you don't need her. Is she better than everybody else? Yeah, she is. But I don't see that as a big issue. I think it's a personal decision. Pick her up if you want. If you don't, you don't. I enjoyed Evelyn. I think Evelyn's got a fair amount of damage on her. Much harder. Well, I say much harder to play. I don't think she's that hard to play in compared to Miyabi. Yes, she is. She is a lot harder to play. But again, it's people having an entry level that they can get used to something, and then maybe gradually pick up more characters and combat styles they never would have played. And that brings me to the next thing, I guess. The combat styles. There are so many different types of characters in this game that you will find something that you enjoy, and it could be personality, it could be look, it could be, is it male, female, damage type, attack types, defensive types, stunners. It offers a lot. And the other thing was, when going back to, we'll call it like account Miyabi, shall we? Account Miyabi, free to play. I haven't spent any money. Everything's been free, and I picked up Miyabi and I got her weapon, and then the banner after, I managed to pick up Astra. Sorry, I'm thinking of Honkai. Astra. Pretty much 2 or 3 days before she left. didn't get a weapon, but I didn't really need it. And now I'm almost right at the end again, where I'm considering picking up Bernice, even though I have her on this, because I think that would make a core 3 on that account. But then also there is Ambi, which I know has been questionable by people, but she kind of is like the poster girl, and it makes me feel sad not to pull for her, so I haven't decided on that yet. Again, digressing, there's a lot of versatility when it comes to characters, different types of weapons, how to build them. People look at these, they think there's a stringent build for every character, and it's not true. There's a lot of 2 pieces that work on multiple characters, a lot of 4 pieces that work on characters. The penetration rate stat, people do not seem to realise just how broken that is. You do need to build around it, but it really, really helps depending on who you have in your team. And I think like Astra is a good example, in which you've got Astra, I have to forget some of the names.
Let's start the experiment.
Grace, another one, Rena.
I'm here, so we're good.
So there's different ways of building, and it is all about just testing and playing and trying. And I think the way that they've made the game and the way that I kind of like it, and don't get me wrong, I suppose a lot of gachas are very, very similar how they do this. You can play through all the story, you can do most of the events, you can level your characters, level your weapons, get your materials, and it's not going to be the biggest challenge there is. Some of the events and some of the end game, maybe some of the events, maybe there is a little bit more, and then there is some challenge in the end game content. Now, some people may agree and say actually it's not that challenging, and I think that's actually to do with the way that Zenless Zero decided to be quite generous in what they've given out in terms of resources, as well as the pull rates, the pull tapes that you get. I think they've made it fair enough that people can clear content, but you've still got to play the game. I think I'm aiming at it. There'll be people that are very casual. Well, I can't do this, can't do that. Yeah, because you don't play enough. You need to play enough to warrant it. And I'm one of them that have done that in the past, moaned about stuff. It's like, well, actually, probably in the last 4 weeks, I've probably only put like 30 hours into it, which in 4 weeks is nothing. You're not going to get very far on 7-8 hours a week. You're going to have to put more in if you want your account to be where it is. So yeah, I'm not going to say this video is a bit off the cuff. I had things in mind about 3 or 4 weeks ago, then I wanted to wait, so I've kind of just say it as it comes to mind. So apologies, it is a bit all over the place. Things like the music, the sound, the voice acting, the actual story, I think is brilliant. It's clever. There's comedy, there is there's bursts of excitement, there is some moments of sadness, that you get to learn and you understand the characters. It feels like when you actually do obtain a character, you actually obtain them. I have played games and other gachas where I feel like I've got them, but I don't feel any attachment to them. And then that's the way that they've written and they've told the story. Every character seems to have something and has inclusion in the main stories, and you get to try them and play them. In the events, they bring back people or characters, that you've probably missed and you've not seen, and they'll bring them back in for you to test them and try them. You're going to know then if you like them. I think they're quite fair on that, and the story events and all the character companion quests seem to have the characters involved that you can use, the trial characters. It's not forcing you to have builds to do stuff like that, which wouldn't make any sense anyway. I had a score when I first played, and it was around about a 6.5, and that was me being quite generous. It could have been as low as 5. 6.5 was because I think it was just my general feedback of the entire game was I knew there was more to give and more to come. That the 6.5 was very generous. 5 and a 5.5 would have been more fair. I'm kind of glad I gave it that 6.5 though. In my head, it wasn't something I gave publicly. 6.5 in my head, and I think the game has improved so much now that for something that you do not have to pay for, I really will be honest, that free-to-play account, I'd say I've managed to get the characters I need. I wouldn't say I had any amazing luck, because I didn't lose on the banners, but I did have to go quite far in, and I think I hit pity on pretty much everything. But again, it was investment. It was an investment. The more time I spent, the more rewards I got back. And because it was really nice to do the experience where the whole story just kind of flowed, it took me back to the reason why I like the game. There's some funny moments between two characters, Billy, Leiter. I like the Sons of Caladon with Caesar and Lucy. There's more serious acts with Miyabi, Yanagi. And then, we're starting to now slowly shift the story. The first arcs when it first came out was just an introduction level to who everybody was. And then it stepped it up from like 1.1, really 1.1, but 1.2 onwards was kind of where the turn happened for me. And then, we got 1.5 after 1.4, which included the fishing event. It was really good. And the Bangaboo event. It was so good to have mini games after you play something really serious in 1.4 where the story really kind of peaked. It was the highest point it had gone to. 1.6 we're on now, I think, is a little bit on the lower side of the last two, but I don't know if that's probably because we get 1.7, maybe 1.8, or it's going to be 2.0 as the year's anniversary will come in July. Maybe they're just trying to lower the expectations to bump them back up again, which again, if that's what they're doing, I think is very clever. My recommendation for the game at the moment, for me, it is a 9. And I would say for anyone that hasn't tried this type of game yet, but is interested, and how that they have made the changes that they've made, you cannot go any lower than like a strong 8.5, because they have made the time to actually go back and look at what they did wrong and adapt accordingly to what people were asking. There is a few characters in the game that are broken, but not enough for me to destroy characters that we already have. We do have one coming up soon, which is Hugo. He will then rival the first ever limited character, Ellen. Then we'll see if we start looking at that power creep. But what do? You have so many elements and so many roles in the games. I think it's only going to be natural that you're going to have characters that come out that are stronger. What I would like to see them do is just balance it maybe a little bit, where Hugo is just a tiny bit stronger than Ellen, but he works in a different way. I know that there's a potential that is going to happen with the Aftershock stuff. We'll see. And then it's more to do with a play style more than who's stronger than who. Who knows? Hugo might not be as... He's not going to be Miyabi level, is he? Let's be honest. So he's probably just going to be somewhere in between. And I think people will probably say that's fair enough. Ellen's a little bit harder to use at M0, a lot better at M2. Gradually, any of these type of games, you're going to get that power shift. I think Punishing Grey Raven is my most similar I can kind of put to this, but there still is a lot of differences. That has a very high power creep in that game, because they are every year increasing, changing the units that you have. Maybe it's not a year, it's 18 months. I keep up with it more than I'm watching, more than playing. However, I know the currency in that game is that there's a lot of guarantees with weapons, and it's a collection thing. But I don't hear many people complain about it, is what I'm saying. There might be a new unit, and I don't really see anyone saying too much. There has been a few videos where people have said, oh, by the time I've got this unit, the next one's on the cards, because we know it's coming out in the future. it isn't something that's ever bothered me too much. I think as long as the character's usable, I'm not bothered, to be honest. I like to find new ways of playing the game, and like Ellen, she's my fire DPS now. It would take a lot to replace Ellen for me. Sorry, not Ellen. God, I'm getting completely confused because we're talking about Ellen. Evelyn, she is the fire DPS for me, and I really considered it before I pulled for the character, and that's kind of what I've done with most of them. There isn't many that I've jumped in. I mean, the one character, we'll do it this way so it's easier. Where is she? Right. I was never going to pull this character. This character, Unagi, never going to pull her. Played the story, played the combat, and was like, yeah, why am I not going to pull it? And then what do I go and do?
We fighting? You have my complete support.
Yeah, I get a weapon as well. So I think it is to do with looks can be deceiving. You got to give things a try, and I think for new players, you need to give this a shot. There's enough content in the game to keep you busy, but there's not. I've managed to clear all the story. My story is actually ahead on my free-to-play account. Now I did skip some of the cutscenes because I just recently watched them. It's a great story to kind of go through, and it's because it's not always serious, and it's not always a comedy, and it's not always heartfelt. There's some serious moments in there, and it actually makes you kind of want to play the game, want to pull the characters. I think it's very important. People say you shouldn't be play these type of games for story. It's not important. It's all to do with the combat. It's all to do with the features. Yeah, I'd agree. But I think if the story's really, really poor, you don't have any tie to the characters, so you don't really want to play them, or the combat. It might be flashy. That's it. You'll give up after a while. Having a very strong or complementary story. That's what I'd call it, to the game itself, and then opening up the features to allow people to progress with those characters, to try them more, trial them more, I do think is really, really helpful. And I'm playing other games at the moment. I'm playing Wuthering Waves. I've kind of struggled with that a little bit because I haven't felt the story as much as I've felt this. People probably disagree. Maybe some people think that story is really good. Have I played it all? No. Why? Because I'm feeling like I just don't feel like I really want to. I'm not invested. I'm trying to be invested, and I'm getting a little bit better with it, but it's taking a bit more time. I would recommend to anyone to just give this a shot. If you're into the music soundtracks as well, it's some bangers on there. I play mainly the story and stuff through my headphones. It's the official PlayStation 5 headphones, and there's some sound effects there that I didn't even know existed when I first played the game. And 1.4 came and I restarted. I played it through the headphones, and I was just like, wow, this is like a different game. The city itself, you see, it's all broken up into little small areas, and that's fine. I don't mind that. Not everything has to be open world. It may be too small for some people's liking, but I think the general thing of the game is you are doing combat. That is the most thing. You've got parts of story that you get 3 or 4 hours of story every so many weeks, 6 weeks. Maybe in this case we've got 2 parts of this, so 3 weeks. Events again, you get some of them, but you're generally doing it's combat. You're building your characters, and that's the whole point of the game. And I think if you can relate to the story with the characters, understand that they, my currency now, as you can see there, I've got 25k with 15, so it's like 170, just a bit more. I have topped up occasionally, and I mean occasionally. I've never even bought the biggest pack. It's been the smaller ones. I only ever do the bonuses, and that's only because I've been enjoying it, not because I needed to. Because I've got the currency, I just thought, well, why not? I've played enough of it. I feel like it's deserved a bit of money. But people out there, that things are expensive now. games are very expensive, and I think this is the thing that you need to understand, is that a lot of people criticize free-to-play, gacha games especially, but you do always have to remember that it is a free-to-play game and you're not forced to spend money. Now, if I got something given to me that was free, then I don't think I really have a huge right to complain. Your investment in your time in this is entirely up to you. You cannot blame somebody else because you spent 100 hours doing something and it hasn't gone the way that you expected. I think we have to remember that games nowadays are very, very expensive. Minimum's going to be, in the UK, minimum's 50, but you're looking at these deluxes like 70, 80, all the way up to £100. It's a lot of money, and people just can't afford it anymore. I think you can pick up something like this that you can download for free. You've got a game that's a live service that's always going to have updates. You can play as much of it you want in your own time. Eventually, you'll be able to keep up with the events. A lot of the events, I think there's most of the ones that I think they're all most of the main ones that you need to know about. They're here to stay. You might not get all the rewards, but there's months of content to do, and there's always grinding for more gear. There's always new characters. There's always going to be an addition to story, and from what I can see that the devs have done so far, every patch is just a little bit better than the last. Agreement in 1.6 doesn't really change very much from 1.5. I can't remember anything that comes to mind that I think that was a huge change, if anything at all. But I think we're in the right place at the moment to see what they're going to do for the anniversary. And I think recently they've done enough to leave us where we just are. So that is currently my review. I sit between, I think, 8.5 to 9. It's around that mark. For me, it's a 9. I think probably 8.5 is fair for most people. For me, it's a 9. That's kind of my review on the game. I am going to spend some time building some new characters, and I am going to go back to the free-to-play account and try to start grinding more gear. So the idea and the plan is for me to produce a video now, and I've said it before, but really every week, just kind of showing some progress. Now, my videos don't see like a high population of people, viewing them. But if you get to the point in this video and there's an interest there, you'd rather see the free-to-play account, or you'd rather see this account, or a bit of both, and what type of stuff are you looking for, then it would be really, really good for me to hear that from people, because I think it's great to have some investment and listen to others. And while we're here, what I'm going to do is, I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to chuck 20 on Bernice's weapon banner just to see. I have no expectations on this. It's the Pulcra one. We could do with that. Yeah, and I'm going to do another one, and then I just thought I'd chuck a 20. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. Oh, well, okay. Can we get it? Well, this would be the cheapest weapon if I do. It is a 75-25, and this will go for Bernice, which is what I need. Sometimes you just got to go for it. I lost my last one prior to getting this, so I'm hoping this will be the win this time. I shouldn't be losing 2 75s in a row, hopefully. And there we go. Well, okay. I had no expectations to get the shaker there. So that's going for Bernice. And that's how it can happen, just like that. So I'm kind of glad I went for that in the end. That gives Bernice... I say I'm actually really close. I was going to go for a Nabi and her weapon. But at the moment, I'm not 100% sure. We've still got like 10 days. So I'm kind of considering it. I know that if I go for... Did I say a Nabi? I don't know why I said that. Ambi, sorry, I don't know why I said that. The only thing with Ambi is she needs Trigger. Trigger doesn't really need Ambi, but Ambi needs Trigger. But I do really like her because she's the poster girl. But if I'm going to go for her, I've just got this thing that, you see how cool she looks with purple hair. I know it's ridiculous, but look at the purple hair. She just looks so cool. Left hand side, just looks really cool. But actually, you know, you look at this, it's just, this is stupid. You get 78% crit damage. And then, yeah, when the crit lands a basic hit, special attack, or aftershock, they gain 1 stack of the buff. Each stack increases the crit damage by an additional 10%. So she gets 108 crit damage just by having this weapon. We won't even worry too much about the electric damage, but it's silly. It's silly. How well this buff does, I don't know. I know there's been some complaints over Ambi, so... But I tend to kind of just play it at my own level. I watch a few things. I prefer to mine, so... But that adds another engine to my list. So I have 1, 2, and 3 as the main limited, and then I have 1, 2, and 3 duplicate of that. So yeah, this is good. I'm pretty pleased to have this. I don't think we're gonna have enough to do this now. I'll try and level it as much as I can. We do not have enough, do we? No. Okay, well that's going to be something that I will do. But yeah, really pleased with that. That's come out of nowhere. Sometimes you've got to try it. And I think, on that note, we end the video in the right way. Where is she? Here's Bernice. We end the video in that way. So, thank you for watching, everyone. If you're interested in seeing any more, please let me know. It'd be great to hear from everyone. Have a great weekend.